nervous?
No.
Where's your answer?
Dennis Beckham, let the ball out! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Oh!
Oh, no! Oh, yes! He missed it.
Welcome to the Suffering from Joy podcast. My name is Devan. We're going to talk a little bit about Arsenal and the Premier League and, you know, all that fun stuff so far. But before I introduce our guests for today, we have a little admin housekeeping, the funnest part of every podcast for everyone. We're giving away some prizes, some actually cool stuff. I still have to finalize a few things, so I don't want to shout out something too concrete right now. But if you want to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SufferingPod, SUFFERINGPOD, no spaces, no underscores, nothing nifty like that. We're going to have a contest to see who can best predict Austin FC's remaining games. So it'll be based on, you know, however many points we get, and you predict the scores of each game. And based on that, we're going to be giving away some cool stuff. I'm hoping I have some game tickets to some stuff, maybe a few other things. But like I said, we'll make sure we get that announced. Everything needs to be in by 6 o'clock on Sunday the 17th. So well before anybody sees a lineup for the Portland game on Sunday. But feel free to enter. And we're hoping to get a bunch of people, and obviously more people, the more stuff we can kind of give away. No entry fee or anything like that. I just don't want to, you know, stack up like 10 prizes and have 11 entrants and everybody kind of wins. It kind of takes some of the fun out of it. But we'll do a little more on that, just to shout out before we get going. But joining me today to talk about Arsenal and I guess tangentially the Premier League, old returning guest, Braden, from the Football Academy podcast. Braden, how you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm excited the international break is over. It's kind of weird now the U.S. doesn't have to go through qualifying, and I just sit here and I'm like, okay, we're playing Azerbaijan. That seems fine and normal, but okay. But yeah, ready for the Premier League again. Ready to get Arsenal back into it. And yeah, let's get into the meat of the season.
Yeah, I was already done with this international break, and I was very done with it when U.S. Soccer sent me an U.S. against man pun on Tuesday, and I was just like, holy shit, I need the Premier League to start again. That nice little chuckle you heard in the background is our good friend Ram. Ram, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. It's the most wonderful time of the year. College football, NFL, and Premier League. And also, like, just European soccer in general. Like, I like watching French League, a little bit of Serie A in Italy, and then, of course, Champions League is coming back. So it's just a incredible time of the year.
Yeah, I always thought, like, for the longest time, the Champions League anthem was, like, the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. And now I'm just like, I can't wait to hear you again, Champions League anthem. Where have you been
For
since
real,
2016, man. 2017? And the last of our panelists today is our good friend Josh. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just like Braden, really, really glad the international break's over. Looking forward to Premier League matches starting back up this weekend. Looking at a lot of good fixtures this weekend, and Arsenal kind of getting to the meat of its first half schedule these next few weeks. Got a lot of good matches coming up. And then, add in Champions League to that. Starting off against PSV, I believe, next Tuesday, correct?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
I took the day off work.
I'm going to take it off.
It's Wednesday.
I'm debating taking a half day for it. But just like Ram said, like, you know, college football, NFL, getting to postseason baseball, which is the only time of year that's worth watching that sport. It's just the apex of everything that's worth watching. And it's just a whole lot of fun. So couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. And I want to kind of touch base here too. I know both of you are having a good college football season so far. Mizzou managed to beat mighty Middle Tennessee State at home by a paltry 4 points, but we got the job done. So it's, you know, my season's not over yet. Braden, how is your? Are you going to watch college football the rest of the year after Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I will, but it's very it's a frustrating start to the season. The Jalen Milroe era is not upon us.
Would you rather see a Jalen Milroe or a Kai Havertz better start?
Oh boy, I'm going to go with Kai Havertz. Like, I've seen plenty of Bama national championships. I'll take a Arsenal title We'll go with there.
Okay, yeah. I think that's best for everyone on the call, at least.
Yeah.
I don't get to do the whole like fake Texas is back, ha 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 thing yet, but it's only September. I'm sure the time will come. But yeah, let's jump into it. So 4 games played, 10 out of 12. Not terrible. Blew a game where we were up a goal, and up a man against Fulham. Probably should have 12 out of 12, but this early in the season, while we're still kind of tinkering with things and some guys injured, probably not the end of the world. I guess we'll start with Josh. How are you feeling about this season so far? And feel free to give us like a letter grade if you want to.
I think at the beginning I was, obviously like flying high, especially after Arsenal's last season, and even though with the way things finished and losing the title race, still had a lot to be optimistic about. And preseason, Havertz looked like he was playing well. Trossard was obviously playing well as well. Team looked like it had a lot of energy. And then the season starts, and then reality hits you in the face, being like, hey, this is the toughest league to play in the world. And it doesn't matter just having a good team. What also matters is just results bouncing your way when they need to. And the draw against Fulham was a very, very good example of that. So I think I came in feeling like an A+, and now I feel kind of a solid A-, not quite in B territory, mainly because it looks like Havertz is going to need some time to get assimilated to Arteta's style of play. Came from a really just awful system at Chelsea, awful situation. Didn't do a lot there despite, being a part of their Champions League winning side. But the realistic threshold for Arsenal for me is that we could finish as high as second. I don't know if we finish first this year, but if things go south, they could finish as low as 8th based on the way things are shaking up in the table and the quality that I'm seeing in the top half this year.
Yeah, and I mean, good news, bad news, right? It's only 4 games, so things could go a lot better, things could go a lot worse. Ram, how you feeling so far?
I'm feeling great, actually. Like everything that was just said, I agree with a lot of it. I do think that, as was just mentioned, I think Kai Havertz is probably like maybe a couple, a few weeks, 6 to 8 weeks from really finding his spot on this Arsenal team. It's taken a long time. If you look at all the players that, the name I think of the most is like Thomas Partey, and like we talk about him as this indispensable kind of player, where if he's in the lineup, we feel a lot better than it versus when he's not. But like, it wasn't that way at the beginning, and even he himself in an interview, a real obscure interview, was asked to rate himself in terms of how he was playing. He gave himself like a 4 out of 10. So it took a while for him to actually fit into the role that Arteta wanted for him. So I kind of want to give the same amount of time to Kai Havertz. Well, not kind of. I mean, I really do. And I think it's going to take some time, regardless of whatever the price tag was for him. I'm not that worried about it. I think we have depth. And as long as I've followed this team, depth has always been the issue. And I feel like now that's not an issue anymore. Like, we've got depth in virtually every single position you can imagine. It might not be perfect or whatever, and I don't think we're where we want to be as a team, but I think a lot of teams are like that as well. I mean, some teams are overperforming, like Tottenham. Some teams are underperforming, like Newcastle. There's a lot of variance that's going to happen. And again, it's 4 games into the season. There's like 5 more international breaks coming up. The season ends in May. A lot is going to happen for a lot of teams, and I think just considering how we started and just kind of, we didn't necessarily fire out the gates like we did last year. I'm going to give our team an A- as well, but I think we're on the up. Like, I feel really good I'm not worried about finishing as low as 8th or anything like that. Like, I think there's a lot that's going to happen, and it's still too early to kind of like put ourselves in like a slot right now. And like, I think, I just feel really good about the team that we have right now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is less about Arsenal and more about kind of the rest of the league because we did all of our business super early, but like transfer window closed like 2 days before our last game. So there's a lot of people who are picking up guys late or filling in some slots, and obviously you have injuries coming up, hitting us a little harder than some other teams right now. Thinking about all that, Braden, 4 games in, how you feeling so far?
I think similar to what's already been said, I'm going to put us a little bit lower to B plus, but not really worried about it. And I'm going to kind of, it feels like that time in high school when you forgot that a quiz was coming up and you just bombed it. And it was at the beginning of the year. So you have plenty of time to make it up. So you're not really worried, but it's just kind of like you're in a bad spot right here. It's just kind of how it feels a little bit. And I think that's fine. I think we intended to start slower than we did last year. And by that, I mean, we came into the season last year white hot, ready to, bust out of the gates, go on a full out sprint. And I just don't think that's what the plan is this year. I think we want to play our best football in March and April this year. And, maybe that doesn't mean Premier League. Maybe that means Champions League. There's lots of ways that this can play out. But I'm not concerned about it at all. I think we got some time to gel, and I think we've got some new partnerships that need to form, and people just need to get used to each other a little bit. But I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, like called like an 86, 87 out of 100, like BB plus range. We're fine. I'm not worried about anything. And we'll kind of touch on this here in a second. But I always thought after that first game, the whole plan was the first 3 games, play that weird party at right back, kind of tinker with it with a few games while we kind of have some room to kind of mess around. And we really should have taken 9 from 9. Obviously, we kind of messed up Fulham in a few ways, but I don't think that was like catastrophic or anything. And I thought we would always go back to kind of the Zinchenko, Saliba, Big Gabby, and Ben White thing as soon as that United game came up. So I know a lot of people were freaking out about that, but we're kind of messing around. We have a lot more games this year. And, we finished really, really sloppily the past couple of years. And I think Mikel was looking at that saying, hey, we have a lot more games, a lot more meaningful games. Let's not burn ourselves out in the first 10 games of the year or whatever. So yeah, like, things could have been better, but not worried. I feel a little weird saying that now, thinking back after that Fulham game. I kind of went, well, as long as we beat United, it shouldn't be a big deal. And then thinking about the 87th minute as I'm watching Garnacho score and going, oh shit, should we hit the crisis button? And so it's a little weird how fast things can change like that.
That's a great point. This was Gabrielle's like half a second reaction from being a very different mood.
Yeah. So
drawing the lines.
Yes, they did remember to draw the lines. That helps.
But that's the margins that we're going to be playing with all season long, in all fronts, like in every single competition, any time that there's VAR involved. I mean, it's going to go from disaster to just ecstasy and vice versa. Like it's going to be that's makes the sport amazing and also terrible at the same time. Like it's just yeah, man, it's crazy.
All right, I don't want to do a ton on refereeing, so I'm going to get this out of the way early. I think I'm actually going to I might have Seth join me, I might have a couple of you guys join me. I haven't figured out the format yet, but we're going to do kind of like an MLS plus Premier League plus kind of general refereeing. What is it? How does it work? Standalone episode. But, we're doing Arsenal today. So, Braden, I'll let you go first. What's the worst call against Arsenal you've seen so far this year?
So I'm going to go with Saka getting a yellow card against Manchester United. It's just an absolutely absurd call when he is getting fouled that he is somehow carded for granted, the foot was a little high on Bernardo Silva, but not Bernardo,
Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, in Portuguese, please. It's fine. But I just heard some of the discourse around that, and some of the Manchester United fans saying it should be a red card. And just like, are you guys completely forgetting that the only reason that is even late or even a challenge, or Bruno needs to have a chance to get the ball, is that Dalot is dragging Saka down to the ground. It's just an absolutely absurd call. I don't know how we even got to that from Anthony Taylor, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys keep telling me he's a great referee, and I keep telling you he isn't, but it's a subject for another day. Josh, how about you?
I resonate with the yellow card against Saka. That was just completely detestable. But what I think kind of takes the cake above that were the 2 yellows against Tomiyasu versus Palace. The card on the throw-in, and then the referee having the nerve to send a player off on such a soft foul with 30 minutes to go left in that game. I just you can argue on technicalities. Like, I understand that, and the PGMOL is going to create valid reasons why they make the decisions that they do. But that was just a scenario where, from a game management perspective, and especially from the nature of Tomiyasu's foul that got him sent off anyway, like, you just call a foul right there and leave it. Like, you don't send a guy off in that scenario.
Oh, I don't think it was even a foul.
Yeah, and just the lack of consistency that I've seen this season so far. Nothing new, but I think this season's felt different in the sense that the PGMOL feels so emboldened by all these rule changes that get them so much control over the flow of the game and just over the management of what fouls are fouls when. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just really frustrating. And Tomiyasu shouldn't have gotten sent off versus Palace. It was just incredibly awful.
Well, much like the let it play edict ended as soon as Odegaard got near Eriksson last year, the time wasting and player dissent stuff ended as soon as Anthony kicked the ball away on in our last game, which was, every other game up until then, they'd given a yellow card to every player. They were actually pretty consistent about it. And then that happened and it was no yellow. But Ram, any other ones you want to cover here?
Yeah, I was definitely going to go with Tomiyasu until now. But what I'm going to go with is that Kai Havertz penalty that got overturned. Now, granted, you can argue either way. But as you've said, Devan, a lot, I've seen you say, in multiple places.
I've written books on this call already. So
based on precedent and based on what I've just what I've seen, like in similar calls, especially with Manchester City, the first thing I think about is Kevin De Bruyne against
Fulham.
I think it was Fulham last year, and maybe this year. I don't know. Like it happens all the time, but that's a call that gets called and upheld hella times. And again, I just keep thinking about this, the clear and obvious phrase, and just saying like with VAR and with like instant replay in NFL, like you got to start with the call on the field being that's the call you have to base everything on. Now, is there enough evidence to overturn what they called on the field? And I felt like you can watch that play 100 times and 50-50, you can overturn it, or you could uphold it. And that's not clear and obvious. That's 50-50. Like you can flip a coin and just pick and you might be right. So unless if it's a 50-50 call, I mean, why are we overturning it? What are we even doing with this VAR thing? So it's like that one for me, it's egregious.
And I'll just kind of repeat what you were saying that I've, like I said, I've written books on this, it feels like already, but
yes.
PGMOL kind of put themselves in a corner on this one because like literally their precedent is if there is a penalty called and there is contact, it gets upheld, period. I think that's a dumb way to do things. And they've kind of like I said, kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball on it. Both of those things are true here. So I did watch the little Howard Webb PGMOL thing. I'm not super satisfied with the response. I get what they're saying, but like you look at every penalty they've looked at in the past on these, like, the Rashford one the week before, same kind of scenario. If you want to apply that rationale, that one gets overturned. But, at the end of the day, we ended up beating United in a much more heartbreaking fashion for them. And then their club is like literally falling apart day by day. So
great,
maybe in the long run, we ended up better off for it. But yeah. So, I mean, it's a thing we're going to deal with all year. And
yeah, exactly.
I hope it gets better, but I don't have high hopes. Especially, we're going to Everton, to Sean Dycheland. They haven't released the official yet as of the time of recording. I did see our good friend Rob Jones, who is the away to Southampton ref, and a couple other games where we felt like we weren't getting any calls. I think Aston Villa last year too, home to Aston Villa. So after the Forest United game, they've lodged a formal complaint against the ref, and now PGMOL stuck that same guy on the Forest game. So the beatings will continue until morale improves. So
I will say on FOTMob, according to FOTMob, Simon Hooper is the referee for Everton and Arsenal.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
they haven't updated it on the official PGMO website, but they do tend to get leaked ahead of time. So
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Simon Hooper, I bet money on it.
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead. Braden, do you have any odds for us? Betting odds on referees?
On Simon Hooper? No, I do not. Although I do encourage you to look on Transfermarkt has data on all the referees' yellow cards, red cards, penalties given. So before you gamble responsibly and look that stuff up.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And you can always go back and go, oh, is that fucking guy that called this? And then you can go, yes, it was.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. Let's get on to some meat and potatoes. Let's win a bunch of games so the referees don't matter.
Exactly.
And win them so decisively. So we ran really long, and I forgot to ask a few questions on our last kind of preview episode. And one of the ones I meant to ask was, in the league, will Arsenal score 100 goals this year? Now, right now, we're averaging 2 goals a game. That's well below the average you would need for that, which I think is like 2.68, 2.76, something like that. Didn't do the math off the top of my head here. But so I don't think we're going to get 100. But Braden, how many goals are we going to score this year? In the league, just the league.
In the league, I'd put us around 94 or so.
Okay.
I think this attack still clicks. I think it's a little disjointed right now, and that's fine. I think at some point in the course of the season, it clicks, or we make significant changes, and even just the addition of Zinchenko in there, hopefully full time and not, in 3 games have a hamstring and that sort of thing that we've got a little accustomed to. But hopefully with that, I think we just see a much more cohesive, coherent attack. And I think we probably get there. And whether that is Havertz getting used to the role and blossoming, or whether that is maybe it's Fabio Vieira's turn at some point. Like you could argue he's earned it. I don't know, but I think we will see something to get this to be a more aggressive attacking unit.
Okay. I'm going to go a little lower. I think we're going to kind of have a little bit of a defensive crisis and kind of shield a little bit more that way. And basically end up winning a couple of games, 1-0, 2-0, and teams we should probably be scoring 5 or 6 on if we want to play the goal differential game against Man City. But let's win games. Let's not play the goal differential game. So I'm going to go, say 85. It's my final answer. Not a bad haul at all, but you're still scoring over 2 goals a game at that clip. Ram, how many goals are we scoring?
I'm going to go with 95.
Okay.
One more. I think we're going to.
Price is right.
I was going to say,
yeah, it's the price is right. Hey,
it's too soon.
Rest in peace, Bob Barker. I have a feeling that Kai Havertz is going to come around and get his goals in. I feel like Eddie Nketiah is a different beast this year, and he's stepping up. And I feel like he's going to get his goals. I think Gabby Jesus is also going to – I think he got his injury out of the way for the season, and I think he's going to get in a good amount of goals as well. I'm just looking at our attack right now, and I just think everybody there is going to just be able to eat and put in goals. And then, of course, we have like Martin Odegaard, I feel is still hasn't peaked yet. And I feel like he's just getting better every single year. And that strike against United has me feeling really good about where he is as far as confidence in terms of taking shots. And then I think Fabio Vieira is ultimately going to put in a lot of get a lot of goal. What do we call it? The goal involvements, assists, and goals. I just think, eventually we're gonna turn everything on, and there's just a lot of players who are going to get a lot of goals when their number's called. I mean, Fabio Vieira just gave me a huge, I guess, injection of optimism seeing him come in against Fulham and really jumping at the opportunity and contributing with 2 assists, I believe. Or no, he got an assist and then drew the penalty. And I
think that should count as an assist, by the way. Like, I know it doesn't, but like, you draw a penalty and your team scores it.
100%. And Eddie Nketiah drew the penalty against Palace. So I just feel like, yeah, and you know, we can talk about how we're not clicking and we're not looking good right now, but you can also flip the coin and just say like, hey man, we're actually looking really, really good considering we've been experimenting when we've got a whole new midfield basically. Ultimately, you know, we've got really young players who are professionals by all account. They're all like, you know, dedicated to their craft. And I think we look good and we could have easily scored more goals. And I think that's just, they're going to go in. We're going to get better. So I feel like, yeah, at some point, yeah, I think we're going to win a lot more 1-0 games, and they're going to be a lot more tighter games, especially against City. I think we're not going to win in a shootout against them. So I think we're going to steal a 1-0 win against them at least one of the 2 times we play them. But I still think we're going to put up 4 or 5 goals a few times this season. And I'm going to go with 95, man. I know I rambled on a little bit, but we've just got too many players who are just chomping at the bit, I think, to contribute. And 95, easy.
95. Well, it's going to be easier after we beat Spurs 10-0 next week.
Hell yes.
So that'll soften up some of these predictions. Josh, how about you?
I was doing some quick calculations. What I thought what the lowest threshold would be versus the highest, and I think the lowest amount that seems possible is 76, and the highest seems to be like 114 if we just go like balls to the wall and our attack just completely starts getting consistently 3 to 4 goals a game. I don't see that happening. I think Rams' prediction of 95 is spot on. And I think something to note is that Martinelli, despite having 2 assists on the season so far, he hasn't scored yet. And so we're missing a little bit of production there. Awesome to see Declan Rice get his first goal for Arsenal against United. That was just such a euphoric moment. And I think he's going to be in a really, really great position to contribute, especially off of set pieces and corners this season, because he was just so well positioned to get that goal against United. So I think we'll see more of that this season, which kind of accounts for that. And also, Jesus scoring in his first game back after having a little knee issue. That's really encouraging. And then
it was a nice goal too.
It's nice how that just became a topic of it. Basically, just became a meme with
Thiago Dallo.
Yeah, Dallo just sliding into the Andromeda Galaxy.
At some point, he'll collide with that baseball Albert Pujols hit off Brad Lidge in 2006, and that'll be the only time either of them stops. Sorry, Rangers fans.
And I think as long as Eddie is in good form as well, I think that's just I think that's extra goals on the stat sheet. He's been super reliable every time that he started the season, and I don't know. There's a lot of potential, and then if our defensive players, if Gabriel and Saliba contribute a few goals here and there, I think as long as the play opens up, I think the opportunity to get above 100 is feasible. But I think Rams' prediction of 95 is spot on.
Okay, we're gonna do a fun little thing here, and then we're gonna dive into a little more analysis. But I'm gonna count to 3, and let's all say what our final league position is gonna be. Last time I said second. I'm going to stick with that. I believe all of you said first. So I'm going to count to 3 and then say go. And then right after I say go, all 3 of you say what you currently think our final league position is going to be. So I'm going with second. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
Second.
Braden, I didn't catch yours.
Yeah, I said second.
Okay. I sound smart now.
Yeah.
I will say this. Like, that's right now.
Yeah.
I feel like, 3-4 months right from now, if all my predictions come true, I would say first. But right now, like, City is just this inevitable monster, and it's all about consistency in the Premier League. and they're just right now the most consistent. And the biggest cliche is if the season ended today, then they'd be first, we'd be fifth. But the season doesn't end today, so there's a lot. But yeah, I would say second, just based off of how much we've got a 2-point mountain to climb.
Yeah, we do these predictions kind of for fun because,
yeah,
this time last year, I always bring it up to people. There was a huge debate, I think, even into October of last year, where people were saying, "Oh, well, does Haaland actually make City worse because he doesn't play the same?" Guys, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I was never worried about that.
They were making memes out of him after that Community Shield match, and
how Darwin was a great signing, but Haaland was going to be a huge bust. Yeah. So just calm down, everyone. We got a ways to go. We're barely 10% of the way through the season.
Yeah.
We'll do a little analysis here. So obviously, there's been a lot of ink spilled on Kai Havertz, and I don't think he's been as bad as people think. He was actually very good and useful in that Palace game, especially after we went down to 10 men. Talked a little bit about Eddie, and I think his big thing is he's been doing all of the things that people have said Eddie never does. Mm-hmm. He's doing hold-up play. He's, running off the ball. He's tracking back more. So we got those two guys, and we've mentioned Fabio Vieira coming on, to kind of rescue some points for us. So I'm going to start here with Josh. Who's been your brightest surprise so far this year?
Honestly, I think Declan Rice integrating with the squad as quickly as he has
Duckling Rice.
It's been remarkable. I think everyone was wondering if the 100+ mil that we paid for him to get him from West Ham was an appropriate amount, English tax and all, and he's just contributing on both sides of the ball. He's making incredible runs back to reclaim possession on defense, and he's already kind of taking this pseudo vice captain role, working alongside Odegaard and just kind of being a field general and making sure that guys like Havertz and Nketiah, as well as our defense, are just well positioned, and he's communicating with people off the ball. It's just really, really great to see. And then just the attitude and mentality that he's brought with the squad, especially in these big games and close games so far. I think it's just invaluable. And I think I wasn't expecting him to have this large of an impact so quickly. I was kind of giving him the same grace that I'm giving Havertz. I wasn't expecting either of them to really contribute meaningfully in the first few games. But Declan Rice looks like he's there, and I think Kai Havertz won't be far behind.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned too when Party was first around, it took him a long time to learn that 6. And we're playing it a little differently, but that's not an easy job to step into the way we play it. So it's nice to see. I've always thought of him, and I'm glad he's proving me correct here, as more of a crucible, or if you want to get fun, anti-fragile type of player where the harder things get, the better he plays. So it's nice to see. And stoppage time winner against Man United. It's a good way to kick off your Arsenal career. Braden, biggest surprise so far?
So this is tough for me because I feel like I've always been high on his ability, but I think for me this has got to be Fabio Vieira. I didn't not see him coming off the bench and making the impact that he has in these games. So I am glad that he is putting it together, and I think it is a point that people need to take into consideration. I read a lot of things at the end of last year about how Vieira needed a loan in the Championship or maybe back in Portugal or something, and sometimes it just takes a little bit to put it all together. So I'm really happy to see him kick into another gear and really show off some of the talent that I think he's always flashed at times. I think he did it at times in the Europa League last year, but I think if he puts it together more consistently, I think it's going to be a really interesting thing to watch for this team this year.
Yeah, he has more league assists since he signed than Odegaard, since Vieira signed at least. And yeah, I was always high on him, and Arsenal Online loves to beat people down and then raise them up and yada yada yada, completely overreact to everything. I always thought he was going to come good, but tell you what, when I was at that Southampton game at home last year, watching him on that field, I was like, this guy's fucking lost. I have no idea what this guy is doing. He clearly doesn't either. So I had some doubts creep in my mind, but And maybe there's a little bit to say too. He's coming off the bench. And maybe there's some game states where people are kind of already sitting back against us that makes it a little easier for him. And we'll kind of touch on this in our next little subject segment, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, nice to see him get involved, and hopefully we'll see more of him, because we're going to need, not just the starting 11, but lots of guys this year. Ram, biggest surprise for you?
Eddie Nketiah, man. And I'm really excited about the progress he's made since last year. And then he stepped up to the plate tenfold this year, man. Like when the news came out with Gabby Jesus being injured, a lot of people were already starting to freak out. Season's over, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, man, I'm not even worried, man, because first of all, it's not even a serious injury. He's only going to be out a few games, but we've got Eddie Nketiah. And then even for folks who were like, we need a striker, sign a striker, this, that, and the other. Like, no, man, like Gabby Jesus is good. And Eddie Nketiah is good. Now, we might be saying different things in January or in the summer, but for right now, we're good. We're good in that position. I think Eddie Nketiah stepped up. He had a goal in the first match against Nottingham Forest. He got the penalty against Palace. And as you just said, like, right, if you get the penalty, you got to at least get an assist for that. And he was doing a lot of the really hard work, getting in positions and doing all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, he finally earned the penalty in that match. And then one of my biggest, like, criticisms, gripes, or worries about Eddie Nketiah was, like, you can look at his numbers and say, like, oh, every time he starts, he scores, or close enough. But what sucks is, like, what hurts him as a striker, or in his position, is when he comes off the bench, he doesn't score. Like, he just can't be that game changer. And I remember thinking this, and then what does he do? What does he do against Fulham? He scores. He comes off the bench, 45 minutes, he scores, and he has a really big impact in the second half. United, he didn't get in a goal or an assist, but he was just active. He was all over the pitch. He was putting in work. So I would say a surprise, but also just I'm really happy for him, and it's almost like personal. I'm really rooting for the guy, and I want him to stay. Like, there's already talks of, like, hey, what can we get? What can we get for him? And how much does he really have? How much longer does he really have with Arsenal and this, that? But, like, I like the guy, man. I kind of want him to stick around in the long term, and he already has, right? Like, he's an academy player, and I just think he's growing into his role, and as you mentioned before, like, he's doing the things that people say Eddie doesn't normally do, and, like, he almost looks like Gabby Jesus out there a little bit, dare I say, maybe a little bit faster, maybe a little bit bigger of a frame, but I mean, he's putting in the work, man, and I think he's really earning his spot, making it difficult for Arteta to pick Jesus over him.
Yeah. And I think, you kind of hit it on the head. He's putting in the work. You can tell, you can see it. And Mikel said as much in training too. Like, Eddie trained so hard I didn't have a choice but to pick him. Mm-hmm. Keep doing that. Manager's going to keep putting you on the field. And like you said, it's the things that people always rag on Eddie for that he's done really well on, and he's been a great surprise. I was always happy because I twisted myself into knots about that first game about whether it should be Trossard or Eddie. And I kind of thought about it. And it was sort of like a free hit with Eddie. And, he scored the goal, right? So you keep playing him. And I think this is something that we're going to see more from Mikel this year. And Pep does it really well. You'll see these guys like Eddie that are kind of like maybe he's a starter, maybe he's like a 1.5, not quite second string, not quite first string guy. Mm-hmm. And he'll play for like 10, 12 games in a row. And he'll play really well. And then the second he starts to fade, you swap him out for someone else. Yep. Then another person has 10, 12 games that are really, really good. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that type of quote unquote rotation with the Champions League and in the league this year, and as fixtures pile up. Mine, I'm going to go ahead and mention, is sort of a negative one. It's Trossard wasn't great against Fulham, but it's more like Trossard's playing time is a surprise. We've kind of put ourselves in some bad game states where maybe he would have gotten some minutes against Crystal Palace if we weren't down a man. Obviously, he got pulled off against Fulham. So I think we're going to see more of him, but, after the Community Shield, and there were I don't think they were really based on anything, but kind of rumblings that he wasn't happy about playing time. But I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him, but it's 4 games into the year, whatever. We'll get it figured out. So we're going to kind of flip here, and we sort of hinted at it. Talked a little bit about Fabio Vieira. He's been playing well off the bench. Kai's been having trouble. I still think it's overblown. Give him time, yada, yada, yada. Would you start at Goodison Park Fabio Vieira? Braden, you can go first.
It is tough. I think the answer to this is no. I think that as strong as Vieira has played, I just think that with the size that Everton have in midfield, I think it might be important. And Havertz has done a lot of off-the-ball work pretty well. It is the on-the-ball stuff that has looked pretty concerning, shall we say, from Havertz. So I think this is probably a good spot for Havertz. But I think Vieira's time is coming if Havertz doesn't turn it around. Like I think Vieira is knocking on the door, and I think that's what we want. I think a competition will make both of them better in the end.
Yeah, and I think not having Partey solidifies needing Havertz in there for me, because you need X number of big fuckers against Sean Dyche trashy team. I'm sure they're literally shoveling out World War I trenches along the field right now to make sure we can't play ball. So just to have some defensive security for them on set pieces and things like that. So I think I would stick with Kai at least for that game. But Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Mainly because I think this game is a great opportunity for Kai Havertz to kind of prove the haters wrong, but also it's a good opportunity for Mikel Arteta to potentially get on Kai's case for a little bit, being like, hey man, we're 4 matches in. We've had some trouble on the ball, but you're still contributing defensively. We need you to score a goal today. Otherwise, I'm going to have to play Vieira in the next game. It's getting to that point where this is probably Kai's last game to do something before he gets benched for a little bit. So, I mean, I'm pulling for him because I like Vieira as a super sub, just coming on and changing the game when we need him to. But as far as controlling a game and Everton are in bad shape, Kai's biggest struggle seems to be confidence more than anything. And I imagine all of the bad press and bad vibes that he's getting on the socials is probably not helping at all either. And he's a guy that looks like he's got a lot of his mind right now, and he's going through a really hard transition. And yeah, this is opportunity. I'm going to say keep starting him until all hell breaks loose, because I think he's not going to learn anything playing on the bench with the squad.
No. And I mean, luckily, we do have some high-level games in midweek, so you can kind of tinker a little bit one way or another with those. And I was really hoping he wouldn't get called up to Germany and he could just sort of have 2 weeks of Mikel Arteta crazy confidence boot camp, but it didn't work out that way. Germany got housed by Japan and got their coach fired. So
some Aaron Rodgers style retreats in the darkness.
Yes, no, but something that actually works.
No.
How about you, Ram? Are you starting Havertz, Vieira, somebody else against Everton?
I would start Havertz, and I would say this against United. And I hate doing the ifs and buts thing, just because you can come up with all kinds of scenarios. But he was right in front of goal with the ball at his feet, and he could have scored. And he also, if VAR wasn't a bunch of whatever they are, he would have also drawn a penalty. So by our standards, he would have had an assist and potentially a goal. So I thought he was in the right places at the right time. I think he had a better game. I mean, he did give up. He did make a bad pass that eventually led to that United goal. But then we returned the favor right away and just equalized that out and just whatever. Just lots of. He didn't have a perfect game. A lot of players did not have a perfect game. I thought he did well enough to sort of not get benched or not get rotated out. So I would start him. And also another reason, primarily just because of, as you've mentioned earlier, Sam Dyche ball, the way they play is very physical, and on their defensive end and in the midfield, they have some massive dudes. They have some big fuckers like we do. So I think we don't sub out one of our big fuckers for a little short guy in Vieira. And I'm not, I mean, that's just what he is, right? He's not a big guy. He's very slight. He can work that to his advantages, but I think I don't think you stick him into a game, an ugly game that we were going to get against Everton. But he is knocking on the door, so to speak, and he's going to get his chances for sure because, I mean, he himself, no ifs or buts, he got himself an assist to win the game against United. So he's Johnny on the spot with a lot of these passes, man.
Yeah, keep playing him as long as he's still playing well and playing confidence, just like what we said with Eddie.
This is a wonder. I'm telling you, man, this is why I feel so excited, bro. Like, just the amount of depth that we have, man. Like, we're talking about, should this guy start? Should this guy start? Like, we can't go wrong either way. Like,
yeah, I mean,
this is a really good problem to have.
Haven't even touched on Smith Rowe or Reece Nelson that barely had a kick this year.
Yes.
Reece kind of with a really nice steal and a hockey assist for that third goal against United. But yeah, there's plenty to go around. We just barely have a little bit of a sampler on Jesus. Like we said, not a ton of Trossard. So there's a lot to come and a lot to be excited about. We mentioned it earlier back in the Champions League, and I'll let Josh take first whack at this. We have what I initially thought was like a comically easy group, and there are actually like 2 or 3 that are easier than ours. But Sevilla, Lens, PSV, if we don't win this group, is it a failure?
Oh, absolutely. I think especially with the quality on the squad and the depth, and I think just the motivation that this team has to succeed in all competitions this year. Yeah, it's win the group or bust, honestly, because I think you can say like, hey, let's just finish second and get out of the group stage. No, like, you want to make a statement, win the group, get that fixture with Bayern Munich, and then make another statement, and then at least get to the quarterfinal. Like, I think that's the absolute goal of Champions League. And if you get beyond that, great. But it's the first time Arsenal's been back in the Champions League since
2016, 17, I think.
16, 17. Yeah, it's just like to wait all this time and finally get back and get grouped. Are you kidding me? Like, no way. Like, that's just, I know that's not an option for Mikel. I know that's not an option for the team. I think they're going to come out guns blazing against PSV next week. And I think it's going to be a really, really, really fun group stage from Arsenal's camp.
I hope so, and I'm glad you touched on this because I think first or second, if we get either one of those, we're going to end up playing Bayern. So glad we're on the same page there. Ram, how about you? Do we have to win the group for I guess we'll call it the fall semester of Champions League to be a success?
I wouldn't. I mean, if we got second, obviously we advance, and that's fine. But I think the standards are at a level where there's I think in the dressing room amongst the players, I think it's first place or bust, right? So I think the goal, I think even the goal with like, for example, like switching tracks a little bit and talking about like the first 4 games, and there's been maybe some players that haven't been able to get playing time because games have been a little bit tighter than we have hoped. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about Emil Smith Rowe, Reece Nelson, and what have you. I think with the Champions League, you know, the quality's a little bit higher and the competition is going to be a little bit more intense. We're going to be able to rotate, but there's going to be some players on the fringes who might not get game time unless, like, we, you know, by the 5th game, we've already clinched that number 1 spot. And so I think the goal ultimately is to get those players some playing time in crucial matches like that. And if we don't, then it's probably going to be seen within the camp, within the dressing room, as a failure. So I think yes and no. It's a very straddling the fence answer. I feel like ultimately, like, as long as we just get to the knockout stage, we're fine. We can still make some damage in that phase of the competition. But yes, I think first place is sort of the standard right now. Especially given the fact that I guess if you look on paper with however they rank all these teams, Arsenal is far and away the best team on paper compared to these other clubs. Sevilla historically never do well in the Champions League. Lens, the thing about Ligue 1, I will say, is that their teams can run, and they've got some athletic teams in that league, and they will run at you until the final whistle. Like that's not going to be an easy match. And then PSV, we saw them last year. We split points with them. It's not going to be easy. So I think it's not going to be an easy group, so to speak. But I mean, if we have the players if the players perform to the level that they're expected to perform at, first place should be in the bag.
Okay, yeah. Braden, I'm going to add a little wrinkle before I give you your whack here. So Ram mentioned we played PSV last year, Europa League group stage. Those fuckers ripped up a bunch of seats at the Emirates and threw them around. Their fans did. And we have them in our first Champions League game at home in whatever we said 6 or 7 years. Is getting off to like a kick the shit out of them flying start imperative?
Sure. I think we want
it would be nice, but
yeah, I think, obviously we want to go out and make a statement in the Champions League and say that we're not just happy that we're here to win. I think that's definitely a statement that we want to make. So yeah, go out and put 3 past PSV. I think that's great. As far as whether we finish first or second in the group, I really think the goal is just to qualify. It sounds great when you project forward about like if you get first, you get the second team in the group, but there's a lot of really good teams that finish second in the group, and there's no way to know if you're actually going to have an advantage with that or not. So I don't like getting real worked up about that either. I think the plan is just going to be to qualify. If you look at some of our league matches after these Champions League games, there's some pretty big matches there. Like I think Man City comes after a Champions League game. I would need to go back and look at all of them, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had an eye towards some of those games and maybe it ended up in a draw. And honestly, I think that'd be fine if the choices finish first in the Champions League group or keep pace to try to make a title push. I'm taking the title push option and not just winning a bad group in the Champions League like we mentioned. So
yeah, it's not like we have the burger group either.
And I'm looking at the schedule right now. So these are our games after the group stage. So game 1 is Tottenham. Then after game 2 is City. Game 3 is Sheffield. Game 4 is Burnley. Game 5 is Wolves. Game 6 is Brighton. And that's it for the group stage.
And so Wolves is the only one I would call a gimme. And even that is difficult.
Because Sheffield will put up a fight on the 20th.
Burnley is tough, and City barely beat Sheffield. Sheffield put up a fight, man. They are a tough team.
Yeah, luckily all of those are home games too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So I mean that schedule sits up pretty nice for us, or as good as you can hope for with fixture congestion there.
For sure.
I'm just excited to get rolling, qualify, and I think I'm happy. Yeah, so I don't want to there are a lot of people getting overconfident coming into this season. I don't want to get that kind of attitude or get our heads too big. So, play well and qualify. If we get 4 wins and 2 draws and we lose out on goal differential and we're in second place, what the fuck ever, who cares?
Yeah, very true.
So, I mean, the odds of that happening are pretty low, but let's just get out of the group and then we'll go from there. At least that's my view on it. But moving forward, Arsenal at Goodison Park. We haven't won there since, I want to say, 2018. Our nemesis, Alex Iwobi, we never won at Goodison Park while he was there. He's moved on to Fulham. So we have a shot. Josh, what are you thinking for a result on Sunday?
I'm thinking we come out with a pretty comfortable win. I'm thinking it's going to be either 2-0, 3-0 at full time on Sunday. And the reason why I think that is Everton in a 2-week span got blasted by Aston Villa, lost 1-0 to Wolves, conceded the first goal against a team in League Two, Doncaster. They ended up winning 2-1, but it's just this club's in bad shape. And then the draw against Sheffield on September 2nd. I mean, that's considered a good result for them right now, considering how things are going. And then Pickford had some just remarkable saves in that game. But I think the tide finally goes heavily against them, as what has seemed to become the theme in the start of the season. So yeah, 2-0, 3-0. I think either Saka or Jesus that's a brace, and we get out of there.
See, I'm actually less confident because of how shit they've been. Because we always seem to turn up at Goodison when they're like on their deathbed, and then they, find a way to fucking, play their best football in 20 years against us. Braden, how about you? What are you predicting?
I think we should obviously we should go win this game. I have a little bit of a hesitancy, kind of along with what you were saying, Devan. Like, just yes, they're in a bad spot. I wonder if the international break gives them a chance to reset and get back to what they want to do well? Question mark.
Did anybody besides Pickford out?
Pickford will be fine. I don't think he's injured or anything.
No. I meant, like, did they send anybody on international duty besides him?
Did Onana play with Belgium? I don't.
Possibly.
There's a couple around, I think, but for the most part, their squad is still there. So I have some concerns. We should win this game. I got a feeling it's going to be somewhere around 2-1. I think it will be nervy at times, but I think we get through it.
Okay. Ram, how about you?
I agree. It's going to be very nervy. I think we end up winning 2-0. It's going to be just an ugly game like it always is. But I feel dating back to last year, and a lot of the fixtures that we ended up dropping points or due to loss or draw the year before when we missed out on top four, we're able to turn around and get points from. So there was like this little revenge tour that we were on last year with a lot of the matches. The first ones that come to mind are like Newcastle, Crystal Palace. So I think this year, this is sort of like I feel like Arteta does a real good job of motivating the players to kind of avenge past failures, and I think he's gonna really harp on this group of players to avenge last year's loss against Everton, because that was a really bad loss at a real inopportune time. I mean, it's never opportune to drop points, right? But like that one stung a little bit. And I'm sure he doesn't want a repeat of that this year moving forward. So I feel like we're going to turn up and play a lot better than we have in the past. A lot of these past games that we've had at Goodison Park, none of a good chunk of the players that are here now weren't there for those losses, right? So there is a history club-wise, but individually with these players, not so much. So I think they're going to be able to get past the initial, I guess, uneasiness of this game. And I think they'll be able to win an ugly 2-0 match that, on paper is going to look like a big win, but it might be a real tight game for a little bit and kind of nervy. But ultimately, our guys step up and, do the business.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think the revenge tour narrative definitely is going to come into play. And Mikel, former Everton player, never won at Goodison in the league as a manager. So we'll see. I'm going to be kind of the Debbie Downer here and say 2-2 draw, just because I fucking hate Sean Dyche, and I've seen him do this shit to Arsenal teams over and over and over. And yeah, we're better. Yeah, this team's hopefully different, but I am from Missouri, the show me state, so like we'll fall back on that one. But hopefully we get a good result, and we're feeling good going into the Champions League. Do you guys want to do some trivia real quick?
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay. So I will give Ram first guess here. Who was the last person to score for Arsenal in the Champions League?
Oh, shit, man. Alexis Sanchez.
Josh, any guesses?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go Theo Walcott.
Braden, any guesses?
Boy, this is tough. I'm gonna go with let's see, who do we have striker? Giroux?
So Josh got it right. It was Theo Walcott.
Ah, nice.
Boom. Let's go.
Do you know who we were playing and or what the score was?
Oh God, no.
No?
Would have been Bayern.
Ram or Braden either? Yep, Bayern.
Bayern.
Lost 5-1.
Damn.
Yeah.
Listen, so I'm really excited about this Champions League and Arsenal playing, man, because as long as I've followed Arsenal, and admittedly hasn't been long compared to all you fellas, like I've never known Arsenal to be in the Champions League. So for me, this is like some brand new shit, and this is like really, really cool. So when that question came up, it was a total shot in the dark, man. I had no clue because, I didn't know about Arsenal like that the last time they were in the league. I remember that. I remember them, obviously their history in the Champions League, but this is gonna be a big Wednesday for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it used to be like, oh, haha, like, not only are we going to qualify for the Champions League, we'll get out of our group. And now it's like every year we didn't make it back. It was just like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Were we taking stuff too much for granted? But let's do a fun one here. I'll let Braden go first. Who's going to score our first goal back in the Champions League?
Let's see. It's PSV.
And I'm not giving away prizes for these, just the Predictatron.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with let's go Havertz.
Havertz?
Let's go start the redemption tour here.
I thought about that. I like the optimism. Ram, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Fabio Vieira.
Okay. Josh?
I'm gonna go with the I guess one of the two guys on Arsenal's roster that have a European trophy. It's either going to be Kai Havertz or Declan Rice.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going to go with Martinelli because I think he wants that Brazilian fuck Vinny Jr. spotlight. And the place you get noticed for that Brazilian national team is going to be in the Champions League. So I think he's going to be absolutely fucking flying in that first game.
Yeah, that's very true.
And ready to go. So I got kind of a fun one that I want to kind of wrap up on. We can touch on a few things if you guys want to. Obviously brought in David Raya on loan. Ramsdale hasn't been bad, but hasn't been like lighting the world on fire. Josh, you can go first here. When does David Raya get his first start? You can either give me a rough month or a couple weeks or an actual game if you want to.
I think David Raya gets his first start in the Carabao Cup on September 27th.
Yep, against his old club, Brentford.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, that was my answer too. How about you, Ram?
Yeah, same thing. Already a lot of whispers and reports coming out that in order to do that, he has to get permission from the club, or the club can't object, and by all accounts, they're not going to. So I'm going to go Carabao Cup, the energy drink competition, is when he'll start.
All right. I remember. I'm so old. I remember when it was the fucking Coca-Cola Cup. So there have been many names, and they all seem to start with C. Coca-Cola, Carling, Carabao. I'm sure I'm missing one. Braden, how about you?
I actually think he might get a shot in the Champions League. I think if we're doing the Cup League Keeper thing, which I think we might be, I would say he would be in line for it. So I think he's got a shot at that. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I would shy against that, against PSV, is that Ramsdale's never started a Champions League game. So even if he's your starter and you're thinking about maybe doing him in the later stages or something, you want to get his feet wet. But that's just my opinion. So we're going to do a fun one here. And I meant to ask this earlier. But Braden, what's the dumbest thing you heard an Arsenal fan say so far this year?
Oh, this year. That's tough. I have a classic one that I go to that happened last year, but not this
Oh,
year.
you can do that one too, but just we'll do that one, and then you can do one for this year too.
So the one last year was that Saka can't play with his right foot. And saying that like he's not that good. This happened around late September, early October last year, and Saka didn't get off to a great start, but it was kind of like it's still clear he was the best player on the team. I don't know where people are getting these opinions, but yeah, the one that like Saka isn't that good because he doesn't play with his right foot was absolutely crazy, and it's an all-time what moment for me.
Yeah, I'm going to tie that in with mine. Was after the Man United game, there have been some online Twitterings, and I mean, people on Twitter are dumber than your average bear, but there were a bunch of people saying like, I don't know, Saka's had a rough start to the season. Think we need to sit him for a game or two just to show him, a lesson. It's like, what are you, fucking insane?
Nah.
Just because he's not scoring worldies every game doesn't mean he did score one in the opening game. But
I mean, he literally has the best stat sheet out of anyone on the team right now.
Yeah,
he has 2 goals, 2 assists on the season so far.
But
like,
I mean,
and even when he doesn't have a good game, he has moments, man. Like you could argue he had a okay game against Nottingham Forest, and then he comes out with a fucking golazo. And I mean, that's all you need out of him ultimately. Like, not saying that's all. No, let me rephrase that. But like, you just need a moment out of someone like him, and that justifies starting him every single game because he's going to bring that, even if he has a bad game.
Yeah, he has magic. It doesn't necessarily have to come in the first minute.
Exactly. At his worst, at his quote unquote worst, he still has the potential to like have a moment like that. And you forget about, a lot of his game is low percentage stuff. He's not a striker who's going to shoot in front of goal all the time. He's doing a lot of crazy shit. So, it's not always going to be perfect with him, but that's the kind of player he is, man. Yeah, I don't like that take at all. I see that a lot, and that upsets me a lot. Like,
yeah,
we don't, and then also we don't have anybody to bench him for anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not just the offensive production. It's the impact that he has on the game. Like if you see him playing on the wing, they get into the final third. He has 2 men on him every single time, and there's always someone open on the far post, whether it's Martinelli, Declan Rice, one of the defenders. Doesn't matter.
Havertz coming soon.
I think against Palace, there was times where he had 3 people on him. Like it was just insane. Like,
yeah, and I think he's suffered a little bit too from not having that Ben White overlap when we were doing the weird party right back thing. Because that was really productive last year. And I mean, I was watching during a lot of that Fulham game, especially in the first half when things weren't really working, is like we would have 2 people on the right side. We would just have Odegaard and Saka over there, and they would camp 4 or 5 guys. They would just be like, okay, beat us. And then we didn't. And obviously, that flipped up. But I think, we're going to maybe have to make some tactical adjustments around that. But any other stupid takes? Braden, did you give us one from this year or just go?
No, I just went with the last year. I saw the ones on Twitter, but I generally try to hold this for people that I've actually met because I think people are just going for interaction, engagement on Twitters, and they say crazy things. So that was something I heard from someone's mouth, and I just could not believe it.
Oh, I got one.
Okay.
Arteta out.
Jesus.
After the Fulham match.
Oh, Jesus.
Something related to that.
You kids don't know how good you have it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, something related to that is that Arteta has favorites. I've seen that go around on the Twitter sphere a lot. That he's that the starting 11 or the formations that he's putting out, he's going out of his way to start Havertz, or he has some kind of vendetta against Leandro Trossard or whatever. Like that's just doesn't make any sense to me. I think ultimately, like every single player outside of, I think if Arteta has one favorite, it's probably Bukayo Saka. And just because, I mean, if I was the coach, if anybody's gonna, Gareth Southgate, that's his favorite player, right? You know what I mean? Like he loves, like it's hard, like you can't really. He's the only one you can actually play favorites with. I think everybody else, you have to earn your spot. I mean, you see the way where he talks so well about Eddie Nketiah for nearly a whole season, and that guy never saw the pitch, because he's not going to put him over Lacazette or Aubameyang. So it's just this idea that the manager plays favorites, which goes against literally every single thing that he says in press conferences. The thing he does is he won't throw his players under a bus, and he won't talk shit about them to the press. He's always going to back his players, and some people see that and just say like, oh, like, like he has favorites, and I for me that's like a really irritating thing to see, just because like you don't really see that in the way he rotates and things like that. Like he wants these players to prove that they deserve to be on the pitch. And I mean, he gave Trossard a start and he didn't do much with it. So back to the bench you go.
Well, there's a huge narrative right after restart from COVID that he hated Martinelli because it gave Martinelli time to heal from his injury and to grow into his body.
Yeah, I mean, who at that time was starting in front of Martinelli? I mean, Aubameyang.
Yeah, we had him Alba on the left.
You're not gonna. I mean, even. Yeah, at that time, you're not going to put Martinelli above him just because you're just not going to. So that's just the manager gets paid all that money and makes a lot of tough decisions. A lot of it is, it's not like FIFA where you can just plug somebody in and then just hit the turbo stick and do well with them. Like it's a lot goes into it. We only see these guys on game day, and we don't see what they're doing on the pitch and things like that, and we just have to go with what the manager says. Ultimately, like we don't know anything compared to what Arteta knows. I mean, this guy's probably it's 2 a.m. in London, and he's probably up right now looking at spreadsheets and fucking film.
Yeah, like I love talking to people about soccer and about Arsenal, and I get the feeling that if I talked to Mikel about soccer or Arsenal, I would find him really fucking annoying just because of how intense and like super into everything and detailed he is. But I mean, it's a good thing for a coach, right? Ram, any dumb comments you want to shout out here?
No, I think I just went off on that. Like, again, ultimately, if you're still Arteta out at this point, like you're really just all about, you're not really a fan. You're more just trying to become famous on the internet for whatever reason and get engagement. Like ultimately, like, I mean, we're in a really good spot right now, and wanting anybody fired is kind of ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if we only played Mesut Ozil and Nicolas Pepe as a second striker, we'd be winning the Champions League.
That, you know what? Then that's I mean, the biggest people bringing up like Nicolas Pepe and Aubameyang and fucking Matteo Guendouzi as examples that Arteta isn't a good man manager. And I was like, bro, those are like exhibit A, B, and C on why he is a great man manager. Because, I mean, as soon as Nicolas Pepe and Aubameyang and Guendouzi left the squad, you saw the squad get better. Obviously, he's not perfect. I mean, Willian, Cedric, but more often than not, this guy knows what he's doing, and I think we're really, really lucky to be where we're at right now. And
yeah, if we only get 9 out of 10 transfers right, I think we're fine.
I'll take that. I'll take that any day.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything else I really wanted to touch on. Anything you guys want to talk about a little bit more?
I don't have. I think we
touched everything.
We touched everything, man. Yeah, man. Show up if you're in Austin, man. Show up to the tavern for all the games. We're always there. Austin Gooners. Follow us on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebooks. Yeah, man. We got 306 people for the United match, and we're hitting that more consistently all the time. So hype is at an all-time high. Bring your friends.
Get there early, get parking.
Get there early, get parking, and then especially for the later games, in terms of like morning games, because NFL season starts up, and we want to show the NFL fans that we're way cooler. And yeah, man, show up. It's good fun.
All righty. Braden, are you going to come visit us anytime?
Yeah, maybe. We're thinking of what trip we need to take because my wife is on the edge of getting the next status up on Delta. So we're currently planning on if we're going to take a trip to try to maintain that for next year. So it's possible.
You could go to South Padre for the Texas Gooner Roundup, Gooner Beach Edition.
Yeah, look that up. Go to the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for all the details. But that's happening in November. It's basically just a bunch of Gooners from all the Texas chapters that get together and party. And that particular weekend is the Newcastle match, and then the women play. The Newcastle's on a Saturday, and then the women play on that Sunday against somebody, and we're going to be streaming both matches at a bar, and it's at the beach. It's comfortable, so come through.
Yeah, sign up for that. Go to Gooner Gras, do all the fun Gooner events.
I'm going to Gooner Gras this January, so that'll be fun.
We'll see you there. I'm excited for the first Gooner Gras ball or gala. I'm very excited for the ridiculousness of what that will be.
I'm ready for that. This will be my first Gooner Gras, so I'm all in on anything.
I'm trying to talk my wife into it, so we'll see.
Do it.
All righty. Well, I guess on behalf of Ram and the Austin Gooners and Josh and Braden. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Jesus, I almost got out of here. I'm out of practice. I was sick and didn't do this show for like a week and a half. Braden, what's your biggest moment of suffering so far this season? Not me just saying that right now.
Yeah, so I'm torn between two. I'm going to go back to the Tomiyasu red card. I think it's just, you guys touched on why it was a terrible decision. I'm going to go with that. It's like the greatest what the fuck is going on moment.
Throw shit moment. Josh, how about you?
Urian Timber's injury versus Nottingham.
Yeah, I think that was mine too.
Yeah.
Ram, how about you?
The second goal we gave up against Fulham because shitty start, badass comeback, Eddie Nketiah off the bench, Fabio Vieira off the bench, seizing his moment, Bukayo Saka redeeming himself, all the narratives, all the things, all the vibes, and then we just pooted it away and left with the draw. Felt like a loss.
It really did.
So annoying. Still a great game. So many, everything I pointed out, a lot of positives in that match, but we fucked it up at the end.
Yeah, I mean, my real one's the Timber injury, but I'll go with the Adama Traore possibly maybe winning the game for Fulham against us. And instead of going down and getting a penalty, he just kept on running and did Adama Traore things and kicked the ball out.
Oh, yeah.
So that was pretty bad. But yeah, I don't know. It's 4 games in. I'm sure they have plenty more suffering for us in store.
It's going to be a long season of roller coasters, and I can't wait for it all.
Yeah, that's why we do this, though. The bits of fun are worth the suffering. But yeah, for Ram, for Josh, for Braden, as always, thanks for suffering with us. Bye.
Promise here for Austin Jarrett Stroud. It's Diego for goodness! He has written his name into Austin folklore.
They just won't go away.
Oh, he hits the upright again! That's impossible!
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
Altidore squares it. Dempsey's missed it. Donovan has it. From hope, there is glory.